growth has rebounded, economic growth has rebounded, and they're talking about a target of 6%. Government's target was about, I think, 6%. Now a rebound from the World Bank statistics shows about 6.1, and but also there's an argument that real economic growth is not moving at the pace that is expected because people are still concentrated in sustainable, really agriculture that is, not that very commercial, and that means we are now talking about a certain 3.1. So growth is slow. But you mentioned something, whether people are feeling this growth in their pockets. And that is a very key question. Because
you said something, Malcolm, about agriculture.
Yes.
We are not going to run away as Uganda from agriculture. And that's why one of the key discussions of the Economic Summit is agro-industrialization. Government admits that the best way to industrialize faster is agriculture. And I think the minister, who is the keynote address tonight, is going to talk about it. But how do you translate the value of agriculture into money? That is where policy must look. If the farmers grow things, where are they going to sell them? How about the back end? I can tell you, there exist factories, processing plants, but these processing plants do not have I'll give you an example. There are many ethanol plants, but they don't have the cassava to process. But I tell you what, the ethanol market in terms of the market end, in terms of the breweries, exists. So the issue we have here, how can you complete the whole value chain so that the farmer supplies cassava to the processing plant and the processing plant sells to Nile brewers or Uganda brewers? That value chain. That's how money comes from Uganda brewers to the pocket of the farmer. And that's what the summit seeks to see. How do you fix that whole chain?
And farmers would like produce, and farmers would like power,
absolutely
affordable power.
Absolutely.
And tonight we must be having someone from Umeme. The last time we had Celestina Babunji, the executive director of Umeme. And when we talk about farmers producing and fix it into that talk about industrialization, then it means all these things come in one bracket. You have electricity, you have the cost of credit for farmers. We have the agricultural bank. People talking about the agricultural bank or the farmers bank. We have people talking about the cooperatives bank. All these things still stuck in policy. We know very many policies which are stuck in cabinet, and all this affects production at the end of the day. How much is the country exporting? Last 6 years, $3 billion to Kenya alone. And what are we exporting to other countries? Those are questions that will be answered at this summit. Now, I have some industry players really, like from the small and medium enterprises, the Federation of Small and Medium Enterprises. Mr. John Walugembe, you're very welcome to the 3rd Economic Summit for Ntv Uganda. You can turn around. Your very beautiful coat is just pressing in there. So let's walk through the camera. So John Walugembe is the executive director of the Federation of Small and Medium Enterprises, and he's here for. I know you were here in the last summit.
Yes, I was in the last summit.
Fantastic, and a lot of things are going to be discussed today.
Sure.
My question to Ugandans, really, what I've been saying to my friends in the business circles is, please look, there's been a lot of talking, John. 2016 talking, actually 2015 talking, 2015 talking, but most of the things or the key issues that keep coming out from these workshops, from these conferences, from ETC are almost the same. We're talking about production, we're talking about the cost of credit, we're talking about people's incomes, growing, vis-a-vis the economic growth. And some people have even said, look, this growth that you're talking about, we are growing at 5.4, targets are looking at 7 etc. Government is saying we are investing in electricity, infrastructure, we are investing in dams, we're investing in this and that, and that is our priorities so that we can actually realize economic growth, which is also complemented by the likes of the World Bank, the International Monetary Fund. I've just been telling someone that economic growth has rebounded according to the latest report from the World Bank. But has this growth really trickled down? You monitor, or you're a player in the manufacturing sector. You're from the Federation. What is the picture on the ground? Is this talk still talk, or there's something that has been achieved from where you sit?
I think there's a lot of talk, but the talk is necessary. It's a starting point. If you don't talk about something, it means it's not important. So I think these summits are extremely important. I wouldn't agree with those people that say, they are just for people to talk and share the same things again and again. No, that wouldn't be an accurate. That wouldn't be an accurate characterization. Now, on the second point about growth and rebounding and so on. Yes, we are seeing some progress, good progress of course, but we shouldn't feel that we have achieved. No, there are some gaps, and those gaps need to be filled. As you've mentioned, we are seeing a lot of good figures, economic growth figures, but by the way, this 5 and so % growth is below the target. So it's not the best growth that we could have had at this time. No, so what we are having is that whereas you're seeing good figures at the macro level, that same is not being translated at the local level. And I think that's why the theme for today's summit is about how do we create jobs that is coupled with growth. As a country, we have one of the youngest populations. How are we going to create jobs through industry? Because I want people to agree that government is not going to create these jobs. We are investors on their own are not going to create these jobs. We must create a synergy between larger enterprises and SMEs, because SMEs are located within the communities, and it's those SMEs that are able to take advantage of local peculiarities, local opportunities, that are able to translate into jobs that fit the profile of local people.
Let me ask you one quick question. Have you seen, you talk about SMEs, and that is where you sit.
Sure.
You are an authority in SMEs.
Exactly.
But when you talk about SMEs, have you seen a growth? What is the trend like? What is the curve like, the growth of small and medium enterprises? We have seen all these ratings, saying Uganda is most entrepreneurial.
Yes.
And that has only stayed on the pages. Yes. If you look at the mortality of businesses in this country, businesses start, but they don't really even go beyond their first birthday. That has now become like a hit song line, for instance. And government will tell you, look, but we have created the environment. We have invested in energy, for instance. These dams, as we speak, close to the end of this year or somewhere, that Isimba is going to be up and running. There's going to be some sort of commissioning if the deadlines are met. So if government is saying that we have delivered this electricity, and remember it's saying there's oversupply, of course with the Electricity Regulatory Authority, has this oversupply delivered from where you sit?
No, I would want to disagree. Government has done things, of course. I want to appreciate them. Clearly, if you talk about infrastructure, talking about the supply of electricity, talking about the road infrastructure, talking about some of these issues at the macro level that have been identified as constraints, government has moved strategically to ensure that these are addressed. So we cannot say that these are not being addressed. However, we should not fall in the trap of looking at these things as single issues, silver bullets. We must create an ecosystem that can ensure that businesses thrive. Now you're talking about the collapse of businesses after 1 or 2 years. Why do businesses collapse? There are a range of issues, and we need to look at the entire ecosystem. If you are having enabling laws, as the government says, if you bring down the cost of finance, if you're making sure that people now have access to markets, if you're saying that the cost of electricity is low, why is it that businesses are collapsing? Maybe you are focusing so much at the macro level.
I don't want you to discuss everything that you should have been discussing inside there. I know you'll be given a platform. But now, we were talking about jobs. I need to speak to someone from the job sector, for instance. Lirian, you're going to be live on TV in just a few seconds. Come please. In fact, you're live. She's taking her juice. This is the 3rd annual Ntv Economic Summit, and Lirian Mugera here, she's an authority. You can probably put your back there on the table to be comfortable. She's an authority in the job sector. She owns an agency that exports labor abroad. Though it has had its own issues, it has posted figures. Okay, Lirian Mugera, glad to see you again, and thank you for coming to the 3rd annual Ntv Economic Summit. Talk to us. We're talking about our theme is key policies that are aimed at triggering economic growth through jobs. What have you seen over time? At least in the last 3 years, you are in the business of exporting labor, but not in the business of making Ugandans productive. Am I being unfair to you?
Basically, when we do externalization of labor, we have multiplier effects. One, the job created abroad, but also when the money they earn comes back home, which we call remittances, that contributes to national economic growth in terms of setting up small enterprises, in terms of real estate development, in terms of also contributing to education. So there's both social and economic contributions. So when you say...
so the government keeps, youth keep asking for jobs. We want jobs. Okay, you're providing these jobs. But how are those jobs helping to, for instance, grow this economy back home, apart from, growing other people's economies? They are bringing money, there's remittances, etc. But are you seeing jobs grow here, or we are just getting demand for jobs across the country?
Of course, when you look at job growth, it takes time. There are a few things you need to put in place: the infrastructure, the access to financing, all those factors contribute. So in the context of Uganda, we just need to have a path in terms of how we'll progress from stage 1, stage 2, stage 3. And I think that is what government is doing at the moment. So the private sector contributes as part of the process, and it can only do much as it can, but also government has the major role of putting in place the stimuli for the economy.
Thank you very much, Darian, and I believe you'll be discussing those going forward. But I'm just disturbing quite a little. Let me come to you. I'm just disturbing people. Mr. Karuhanga, yes, thank you very much. The chairman of very many boards in this country, the third Ntv Economic Summit is here. Has just been in. Yeah, very much so. The investors. He's just been in Cape Town with him for the for Africa Oil Week, and a lot of things were discussed, of course, about the oil and gas industry in Uganda and how it is going to create jobs. He's a very passionate man when it comes to the private sector tapping into the oil and gas industry. Dr. Karuhanga.
Yes, thank you.
Chairman Karuhanga.
Thank you.
A man of all titles. Our theme is triggering key economic policies that will help us to trigger economic growth, but through jobs. Okay, and very many people are looking at the sector that you are very, very experienced in, and they're saying we are tapping into those jobs in the oil and gas sector. What are those key policies that will help this economy to grow, but later on provide jobs for Ugandans, and so they can have money in their pockets?
Wow. The policies are in place. The government did the policy on oil and gas. It was discussed by everyone. It was adopted by Parliament and everyone. Signed off by the President. All the laws that the policy recommended have been passed by Parliament. They are all in place. All the institutions that had been proposed by the laws have been established. The Petroleum Authority, the National Oil Company, PPDA and all that, the ministry, the entire government organization for oil and gas is sorted. The laws are sorted. The licenses have been granted to the oil companies. Business has been transferred from government to private sector. And you know, private sector efficiencies are slightly different from those of government efficiencies in doing business. Our oil and gas is now ready for takeoff. It's like a plane already on a runway. It is unstoppable. You cannot just simply abort the flight. The oil is there. The companies that we have...
Are you going to create jobs?
The companies that we have are deep-pocketed companies. They are going to get the oil out of the ground. They are going to have to transship it through pipelines to the Indian Ocean in Tanga. All those jobs cannot be done without employment.
I'm waiting for you I'm waiting for you to inform Ugandans that those jobs will be there on that floor of the third Economic Summit hosted by NTV.
So
thank you very much.
If I get a chance,
thank you very much. I'll be looking out for you on the floor.
Thank you.
So you see, we are attracting high-profile people from industry players, business captains, etc., journalists, and people from the financial sector. Then, so that we can actually bring you the key issues. I want to remind you about the theme for tonight. Is triggering key policy issues that can trigger economic growth through jobs. Last time it was through sustainable jobs. But I want to tell you, the list is endless. The lineup for people who are going to be on those panels is a little bit familiar. We just have a few people who have come in and a little bit new, and you'll be seeing them. But Onegi Obel is formerly National Social Security Fund, is the securities expert, the mortgage expert, and he'll be telling you how you can do this. We have Dr. Fred Muhumza is an experienced economist. He's worked with the Ministry of Finance. We have Nanyomo Hadija. She's a tax expert, and we have very many other guests that will be coming on the panel to explain to you what the NTV Economic Summit has actually provided and put on the lineup for you. So I would like also to speak to one of the financial sector players who was supposed to be on the lineup, but is definitely gone away. But let me remind you that you can also look for us at NTV Uganda on our social media platforms. Please make sure you leave a comment, you share with your friends, and tell them that this is where they need to be to understand issues about their economy. Sam, I need to speak to you again. If you could come here. If you look at the the lineup, you know, for the guests, I've seen Dr. Mhumza. He's an economist.
Yeah.
Do you think, really, from where you stand, have economists delivered for this country? Have they played their role? Government has policies in place, and somehow we are being praised for having the best policies, but have these policies delivered? So have economists really delivered? Have they done their job?
That's why
as an experienced journalist.
Yeah, that's why our Ntv Summit is fresh, because economists have put policies in place, but over time they have not worked.
Yes. So I speak out to acknowledge the arrival of the Minister of Finance, Honorable Matia Kasaja. As you can see on live pictures, the Minister of Finance has arrived and is one of the people that will be definitely talking to us. Honorable Minister, this is NTV, and you're welcome to the third NTV Annual Economic Summit. Very key figure. And Mr. Minister, we've just been here talking about the talk that we have had years and years ago, and some people maybe they don't have eyes to see that government has delivered. We have electricity being pumped, dams are about to be commissioned, we have the infrastructure investments, we have education, etc., budget allocations. You are the one that reads these figures. Do you think Ugandans should actually have a hope that all this investment will turn out to be a great economic growth and then put money in their pockets?
Absolutely. I have no hesitation in my mind that this economy is on upward trend. You'll hear what I say. I will reveal more figures tonight. The only problem is that this growth is in different sectors and also in different the growth is not even throughout the country. Some areas have gone up. Some areas have already reached a middle income status, by the way, but others are still not doing so well. But the main hindrance for those who are still lagging is that they either are in the wrong sector or they are doing nothing. Anybody who is complaining in Uganda, I can tell you, is just not doing what ought to be done. Take the rural areas. Some people work hard, others don't work hard. But because if you don't involve yourself in economic activities, then you don't expect to get the money. There is nowhere in the world that government will pick money and put it in people's pockets. That's not possible. It's not there. And I've never seen it, and I've never heard it, and I don't think I'll ever see it. So, in summary, the economy is doing very well. But depends which sector we are talking about. As I said when I deliver my speech tonight, I will show you where we are doing very well and where we are not doing so well. Two, for those who have no economic activity they're engaging themselves in, certainly they're not doing very well. That's why the president has moved with this program of empowering the youth, particularly urban youth, because urban youth have neither land nor do they have any kind of capital. So they are lost. Those now we are trying to work out a program where we can either provide them, particularly if they have a skill, we can provide them with what we call common facilities. By that I'll give you an example. For example, if a group of youth, they have skill in carpentry, all we need to do is first them to get them a place where they can work, but also give them equipment. You will see. And I've seen it, we have turned around. If you go to Zambia now.
I like to talk about equipment and not handouts, Mr. Minister. Thank you very much, and we look forward to seeing you on the floor of the NTV.
Handout depends. Handout depends, because I've told you these people have neither capital nor do they have land.
Yes.
So, if you give them out, if it depends. The handout the president has been either doing is that they form their circles. They have got their groups. So the president, he doesn't pick money and put individuals in pockets. No, this money is given to groups, and these groups, when they go and organize themselves, some of them do an excellent job, very nice job indeed. Others may not be doing it so well, but for those at least I know very well, they're doing very well.
Thank you very much, Mr. Minister. And what a good way to say to the president, has been putting money in youth groups, and we're talking about jobs. The president is doing a very good job. If you haven't received capital, organize yourself and get that capital. That's according to the Ministry of Finance and the minister himself, who will be on the floor of the 3rd Ntv Economic Summit to bring us up to speed with whatever government is doing to make sure that this economy actually grows. I am looking forward to seeing you on the floor, and now we can definitely take you to the room itself, Katonga. My name is Malcolm, Ntv Business. Stay with us.
Good job.
Governor presents Friday Night Live with the legendary Afrigo Band featuring Maureen Ntv on Friday the 30th of November 2018 for only 50,000 shillings. Friday Night Live is brought to you by Ntv Radio 1. Governor, whatever your mood, we've got the color. And Johnny Walker, Double Black. Alcohol is not for sale to persons under the age of 18. Please drink responsibly.
Lwaki okwesa sabuni ono?
Kubanga atukuzanga sabuni yenno wa bulijjo.
Eriyo agiramu ddala amabala gonna mu lwoza lumu.
Tekisoboka.
Weetegereze omuddo, chai w'amajaani ne chocolate.
Nja kumwetaaga. Embatu bbiri.
N'olubatu lumu lwokka olwa Eriyo. Olabye? Aggyemu amabala gonna.
Oba olonze bulungi.
Eriyo aggyamu amabala amazibu gonna mu lwoza lumu lwokka.
Saturday Monitor brings you the 13th Seeds of Gold Farm Clinic in the Eastern region that will focus on cassava, citrus, groundnuts, beef, dairy, sorghum, poultry and green gram. With key interest in post-harvest handling, value addition, sustainable land management, agribusiness aspects and economics. Come attend the Farm Clinic on Saturday, December 1st, 2018 at National Semi-Arid Resource Research Institute, Nasari, Serere, Igola at 7 a.m. Entrance is free, including training and meals. For exhibition and more information, please call 0704 22 50 84. The Farm Clinic is brought to you by Saturday Monitor's Seeds of Gold magazine in partnership with NARO, the Microfinance Support Center, Bank of Uganda, Agriculture Business Initiative, and NTV. Seeds of Gold, smarter farming for bumper harvests.
Chazze yakewangulira super jackpot eya weekend era kati ali super. Wetegese okwewangulira jackpot ya weekend enakyusa obulamu bwo. Zanya super 3 owangule era nga ne sente z'obetinze zikubisibwamu emirundi 2 era weefunire n'akasiimo
ak'okuyingira super jackpot eya miliyoni 7
ku Sunday eno.
Okuzanya ng'okozesa MTN nyiga star *165 *33 hash ogoberera endagiriro ku simu yo. Ate gwe customer wa Airtel nyiga star *185 *4 *9 hash oteekemu business number 333 teekamu omuwendo gw'oyagala okuzanya okuva ku 10 okutuuka ku 5,000. Olwo olonde namba zo zinamukisa 3 okuva ku nooti okutuuka ku 9 ozeeko
NTV
nga payment reference yo era ofune super feeling olwaleero.
Sleeping in wet pants? Sleeping in new Pampers pants. New Pampers pants are Uganda's first pants with 1, 2, 3 channels that absorb wetness 3 times faster and does not allow wetness to collect in one place so your baby gets better sleep. Now available in size 6. New Pampers pants, love, sleep and play.
Coca-Cola
feeling musambo December cricket over Lugogo. Eva Jusako, Dr. Joseph Camille Mulegen Saba Saba concert. Chiribu Madeka. Musambo December cricket over Lugogo. Hogingem to Alebri, Him to Alejano. It means a million Mona December. Trans Africa Giga Kumtualo. When that December, Lido Bicheta Kumtualo. Coming December, Yantone Mupaka Kumtualo. Coming at December, Ajimotelemba Kumtualo. Coming at December, Tropic in Masaka Kumtualo.
Everywhere you go, MTN Coca-Cola. The Twedeco Caravan is back on Monday, 3rd December. Vivo Energy Uganda and Ntv Uganda will launch the second Twedeco Caravan 2018. To strengthen the impact of the Twedeco campaign, Vivo Energy and Ntv will launch a one-day Twedeco Road Safety Caravan to conduct road safety engagements with the communities along Kampala-Jinja Highway. Example, Mukono, Wantoni Stage, Saibediad, Mbalala Marketplace, Bugembe, Lugazi, Namawojolo, Chitega and Mabira Forest on the 3rd of December 2018 to educate and inspire road users towards road safety behavior change. The Twedeco Caravan is brought to you by Vivo Energy, Ntv and partners.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the 3rd edition of Ntv Economic Summit. My name is Malaki Vilodera.
And I'm Charles Boji.
Interesting theme that we're having tonight. So we're totally excited and honored to introduce to you this year's theme being the key policy triggers for economic growth with jobs. Very important. The jobs bit, Charles Boji.
Very important indeed. In fact, of course, when you look at the World Bank economic update for 2018, that is about Uganda, we see economic growth at 6.1% from lows of about 3.9%. And if you talk to a number of Ugandans, they will tell you that, well, we only see this in the newspapers. We don't feel it in the pockets. And it's the reason why we're here.
Interesting. And just to bring you up to speed to this particular journey that started in 2016, the theme in 2016 actually was jumpstarting Uganda's economic transformation, turning vision into action. And that actually informed the 2017 theme that was triggering Uganda's economic sustainable growth with jobs. So the jobs conversation started in 2017 and we're still taking it up this year. And this year's conversation, Charles Boji, will be quite interesting because we're looking above and beyond the constraints that we're facing as a country and forging for solutions.
Very important indeed. And you know, the good thing is that we have all the people, all the brains, all the constituents that matter in this room. We have people from the executive, we have, you know, policymakers, we have captains of business, and we intend to tap into those ideas, that knowledge, to inform policy for the betterment of the economy and the country.
And just to tell you, you know what, you can actually take part in this year's Economic Summit, and we are on the hashtag. If in case you have a biro, note this down or just start tweeting right now. We are on social media. That's NTV Uganda, and the hashtag is NTV Summit 18. I'll repeat that again, hashtag NTV Summit 18. So be sure to be part of this conversation, and we'll be sure to sample some of your views and actually directly pose this particular questions that you'll be able to send to us, to our panelists. And Charles Boji, we have an interesting video just to give our viewers and, you know, our guests a recap of what happened last year.
I think that's very important, yes. Very, very important one, because, you know, we want to keep this conversation going. You know, every economic summit that we organize as NTV draws from the last one, and then we move forward to see that transformational change happens.
Indeed, indeed. So let's take a look at what exactly transpired in the 2017 Economic Summit. Let's take a look.
Uganda knows that actually we need agricultural production to improve. Seed distribution mechanism, fertilizer usage, irrigation mechanism, but not only production, marketing, embedded.
I always tease my friends. In my where I come from, I have a good tarmac road, but we are using goats and cows to move along the road because there is nothing to move on the road. The Minister of Finance is here. So for the first time we have a well good tarmac road, but we are using it to, in the evening you find goats and cows grazing around the road. Simply because the use of the road was not part of the integrated framework when we are talking about the infrastructure. So an integrated approach where you're saying, okay, this is the road, what can I use the road to do in terms of agricultural production, marketing, distribution, I think is one of the issues that really need to be handled.
What do you see in the infrastructure sector? What do we need to be doing next now that we seem to have some sufficient power on board or coming on board? Celestino.
Yeah, thank you, Doctor. I think the issue of power has been clearly highlighted by the keynote speaker. Electricity is the fuel. It energizes the country, it drives industrialization, drives improvements in household incomes and general service levels. It's also true that Uganda, at the time it took reforms of the electricity sector in the late 90s and early 2000s, the sector was really in bad shape. And over the period, we have improved our effective generation capacity from under 120 megawatts to currently 680 megawatts. It's also true that our maximum demand at the moment in the country is 570 per capita consumption, 85 kilowatt hours per annum. If you want to be middle income, you need to multiply that by 6. But also, fundamentally, the government has done the right thing in terms of scaling up investments in power projects. We know that in the pipeline we have Karuma is coming, 600. We know Isimba is coming, 183, Ayago, Muzizi, and a number of other projects. But also combining that with investments in the transmission grid, and also the required investments in the distribution grid. Fundamentally, there are two key issues. If our maximum demand is 570 and you are getting 900, yes, the first thing you'll ask is the pipe sufficient to evacuate that power from the generation plants to the end user? The second question you ask yourself is there end user demand? Do we have those factories and industries ready to uptake this power? Always the theory is build the infrastructure. If the pricing is right, industry will set shop. Combined with other factors, by that including financing, availability of technical skills, and so on.
Right, Honorable Prime Minister, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Along with the Minister of Finance.
Yeah. So, thank you. So the key issue for me, I see for power sector, there are three things. We need access to improve from the current 22% to 40%, to 40 plus percent. We need to ensure that this power is affordable. People can buy it. But also we have to drive this power for economic use.
I also decided to go downtown and bring the views of the people. And I met a small business down on Nasa Road and said, how is business? And this person told me, well, business has really gone down. They're in the business of printing those things. They print receipts, headed papers. So I said, by how much? They said, well, I think I'm getting a quarter of what I was getting 5 years ago. So that's a true reality of what I found downtown, that they're getting a quarter of their business. But I also sat down with one of the CEOs. I said, while we are in the jam and some of us are complaining and quarreling, the jam is holding us backwards, what is on your mind on Monday morning when you are driving to your office? And this fellow said, well, it's a 24th. I have salaries to pay. I have electricity bills to pay. I have rent. I have taxes. I have a bank loan. And all the orders that I got in the month, people are saying, well, we're about to come. But remember, the month is ticking. So when we are in the jam, not every one of us is thinking about the same thing. The business captains are really trying to struggle. And we want to see how we make this a reality. So we might be having a discussion of long term. There are certain people for whose long term is 1 week or 1 day. What do we do for those people? Talking about cost of credit. Last year I had a good experience, actually not last year, very recently, with money lenders. I tried to go around to do my research and find out what is happening. I went to a bank, I said, if I had 10 million and I want to fix it, what is your rate of return? Of course, as Adam Guma said, 13%. So 10 million at the end of 12 months, you give me 1.3, and of course Doris Akol will be aware, she'll pick off something by way of taxes. I went to a money lender, he said, 10 million, I give you 10% per month. 10%, and Doris Akol is not aware of this transaction, so I walk off with everything. Is this a time when informal is becoming formal? This is one economy, and these are the challenges that are out there, and we need to be speaking candidly what should be the solution.
In the case of Uganda, yes, Kenya is the biggest buyer, especially of staple crops, especially maize. And we have been witnessing that in the last year. And so that is really a result of the comparative advantages that Uganda has. Now, on the other hand, there are a lot of risks with staple crops, risks that are related to policy, and especially to, if we go down into which policies, non-tariff barriers, and also in some countries we have seen in the region, there is abundance of crops, but there are export bans or export duties, and that so. We see a high risk in production of staple crops, and that's where I was saying at the beginning that the large number of farmers, or the majority of farmers, have issues adopting production technologies that would help and increase yields and quality, because they are unsure of whether they will be able to sell their crop. We have the case of Tanzania. There was a surplus on rice and maize at some point last year, but there was an export ban. So that this stimulates agriculture. So staple crops are particularly sensitive. Now, talking about the UAE, you're not exporting maize to the UAE. You're exporting, high-value horticulture. And that's when we look at food security, most development practitioners think that food security has to be linked to farmers growing maize and rice, or millet, or whatever the staple crop is in the country. And it's not that. It is having either the crop produced at the farm or the money to buy the crop. And in this case, that migration from staple crops to high-value horticulture is what we're seeing in Kenya and Tanzania. So last week we were looking at statistics, and we were looking at a progressive decrease of intra-regional trade of maize. And some of our colleagues were in panic mode, saying, what is happening? Is that people are going to starve? And when we started to look at the numbers, there was a replacement. People put factors of production in ventures with higher returns. Okay, so land was going from producing maize to producing snow peas, French beans, and all those high-value crops that they export to the UAE, to the Netherlands, and to the UK.
Thank you very much. My name is Patrick Ayot. I'm the Deputy Managing Director with NSSF. Just a question that I think was not answered, and that's Dr. Muhomuza. You give us the chicken and egg story. So let's just say that Umeme produces about 600 plus kilowatts. The exports will reach to 900. The consumption is 575. He says they cannot sell more because the industry says they can only take 70% because there's no market for them to sell their products. The question we would not ask here is, how then do we create that demand? If you think about the only thing that can create that demand are two: either export it or create jobs so that you can have domestic consumption.
Well, jobs is a very critical issue, and of course The idea is to have this growth trickle down to the people, Omuntu wa wansi, as some people call him or her, and to see that they're part of the economic growth story.
I'm actually looking forward to that particular conversation. And interestingly, Charles Boji, this time around we want to thank all the guests in the house. They've actually kept time. So please introduce some of the key guests that are in already.
Yes. Very importantly, at this moment, we've received the Right Honorable Prime Minister of the Republic of Uganda, Dr. Ruhakana Rugunda. You're most welcome. And we also have the Honorable Minister of Finance, Planning and Economic Development, Honorable Matia Kasaija. We also have a number of eminent people and personnel drawn from both the public and the private sector. You're most welcome, all of you, ladies and gentlemen.
Exactly. And so our viewers at home, we are not alone. The house is fully packed. Please allow me to talk to them. Okay. So ladies and gentlemen, I know we're not in church, nor are we in a mosque or whatever religious institution. But if we are to get solutions today, we need to know at least the first name of the person that you're seated next to. So I'm giving you a minute to at least say hi. Yeah. So 1 minute. Go. And it's not just a hi, get the first name, please.
Yes. Very important, because this engagement is about sharing ideas, and that would be a very good way to really break the ice and start the conversation.
So our 1 minute is over. So our viewers, remember this particular event, we are streaming it live on all our social media platforms. That's NTV Uganda on Facebook and YouTube. And remember the hashtag, let's make it viral. It's NTV Summit 18, the S in capital. So I will not be able to actually hand this particular, kind of program to the next person before I, recognize the people who made this particular event possible. And so, as I mentioned, the names of the sponsors and partners, kindly help me to give a round of applause to them. And so I'll begin with the Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development. Thank you so much. The other key sponsors in this particular event is NSSF. Let's give them a round of applause. We also have the Top Finance Bank. Yes, a round of applause, please. And lastly, we have a Global Paints and Stanbic Bank. Let's give them a round of applause. Thank you so much. So guys, let's make the hashtag viral. Charles?
Well, at this moment, I would like to invite the General Manager, NTV, who is our host tonight, to give his opening remarks as we proceed into this engagement.
Thank you.
Your Excellency, the Right Honorable Prime Minister of the Republic of Uganda, the Minister of Finance, Planning and Economic Development, other representatives from government, our sponsors, distinguished guests, our esteemed viewers online and at home, all protocols observed. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of NTV, we welcome you to the 3rd Annual Economic Summit. This summit is annual. The first one was held in 2016, the second one in 2017, the third one is happening today. It is with great pleasure that NTV Uganda, together with the Ministry of Finance, are hosting this summit. My team and I are excited to be part of this annual event, bringing together many important players to discuss matters economy, which are very dear to all of us. As a leading national broadcaster, we have played host to the first and second economic summit, and today we are seeing the third summit, and our vision as a broadcaster is to work with government on matters of national development. The media plays an oversight role, and quite often when they publish or broadcast stories that may not be favorable or liked, they are branded as enemies. We are not enemies. This year, we opted for a local keynote speaker, Honorable Matia Kasaija, who is the Minister of Finance in the Republic of Uganda, because we as Ugandans, we know our problems and we can resolve our problems better. Okay. Okay. As NTV Uganda, we continue with the groundbreaking economic development agenda by consolidating integration of content on development policies and trends within regular programming and broadcast. The focus remains on enabling key stakeholders to dialogue, generate and share solutions to the contemporary development challenges in Uganda and the continent of Africa by extension. In the case of Uganda, the fast-growing population and the relatively slower rate of economic growth presents the major underlying challenge that should inform all other development strategies in infrastructure, agriculture, industry, and other social services. The previous summits highlighted the importance and relevance to the development agenda of ongoing initiatives in the energy sector, agriculture, transport, industry, financial sector, as well as general public expenditure. Recommendations have been made towards adoption of more integrated planning to ensure that all aspects of a given value chain or industrial process are covered. The Economic Summit for 2016, for example, based the case of manufacturing, where we brought an ambassador from Ethiopia, a Chinese lady by the names of Helen Hai. The summit of 2017 deepened the earlier conversation to highlight the need for integrated planning to realize gains from already existing initiatives in infrastructure, energy, agriculture, social services, and effectiveness of the public sector. The 2018 summit, under the theme Key Policy Triggers for Economic Growth with Jobs, will endeavor to provide ideas and political solutions for actualization of the budget strategy of 2018-2019 that seeks to address the development challenges in the following key areas. 1, commercialization of agriculture. 2, industrialization and productivity enhancement. 3, financing private sector investment. And 4, strengthening the governance and accountability sector of our economy. Ladies and gentlemen, when I met the Minister of Finance last week to discuss about this summit, he told me two things. Number one, industrialization for job creation and shared prosperity under the NRM government is here to stay and it will materialize. Number two, the dream to achieve middle income status under the NRM government is very much alive and is unstoppable. Number three, money does not like noise. When there is noise, money runs away. Those were his words. And the growth we have achieved today perhaps is because there is less noise. To achieve our industrialization agenda, we must invest in human capital development to ensure we have the right skill set to deliver quality labor for growth with jobs under our budget theme that is running for 3 years. Ladies and gentlemen, I wish you all good deliberations in this summit, and we are hopeful that the takeouts will help in strengthening policies in this country. I thank you. I would like to invite the Minister of Finance to come and invite the Prime Minister to deliver his remarks.
The Right Honorable Prime Minister of Uganda, Ndugu Ruhakana Rugunda, colleagues, ministers, I don't see them. I don't know why they're not here. I don't know whether we have also members of parliament. Members of parliament, you are not here? Should have invited these people. Business leaders, particularly the one hosting us, Ntv, and all those that have contributed to make sure that this event takes place. Business captains that are here, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, let me begin by thanking the organizers for putting this event together and for you people to turn out in quite good numbers so that we can share our aspirations and our views as regards the economy of Uganda. So thank you very much for coming. You can clap with us, clap for ourselves. Mr. Prime Minister, sir, as you know, we are in the midst of budgeting, and some of the issues we shall talk about later on will be covered and expanded in the budget when I deliver it sometime next year. But I want to make one confirmation that the economy, as our host has said, is on upward trajectory. When I deliver my full speech after the Prime Minister has made his remarks, I will show you. And what is beautiful about it, as far as I'm concerned, this trajectory is unstoppable. I repeat that one, it is unstoppable. Because every part of Uganda is caught on fire now with economic development. Everywhere I have traveled, everybody is saying, yes, we must work. I think Ugandans, we really have woken up. When in our time the president says we are sleeping. We are no longer sleeping. Ugandans have woken up. And I see this one when I travel in up country, how people are beginning to develop and how the country is developing. Government, we are doing everything possible. Roads are everywhere now. Good tarmac road. I don't want to have to give them a catalog. Activities, you find them on the road, you find them deep inside the villages. So our journey of economic development is moving on very well. Mr. Prime Minister, with these words, can I now take the pleasure to ask you to come and give your remarks. Thank you.
Ndugu Matia Kasaija, the Honorable Minister of Finance, Planning and Economic Development, the sponsors of this event, business and industrial leaders, ladies and gentlemen. I'm happy to again witness this partnership between government and the private sector. As you heard, this is the third event, and a number of us are happy to have participated in all the three. The NRM government is building a private sector-led and an integrated economy. An interaction like this one strengthens the synergy of thinking within government and all the relevant actors within the economy. The private sector provides, in fact, they are the drivers of the economic transformation of this country. This is why it is important to have an event like this one, which gives government an opportunity on one side to communicate the policies in place, and on the other to listen and provide feedback to its partners in development. Government is fully aware of its leadership mandate and is executing that mandate. We are mindful of the need for constructive engagement and that no stakeholder has a monopoly of knowledge, and therefore we need to interact and get the best out of this interaction for our development. Government values the deliberations that are taking place tonight, and the outcome of these deliberations will positively impact on the policy discussions in government. The Honorable Minister of Finance, Planning and Economic Development will, together with his team, give you details of the short-term and strategic direction of government. They also get your input through this economic summit in order to enrich formation of government policy. This summit provides an excellent opportunity for government and the private sector to work together in policy formulation. It also gives us a great opportunity for government and the private sector to identify the bottlenecks to development. And lastly, it gives us an opportunity again to work together to make sure that we remove any bottlenecks on the way so that we can achieve this steady progress and unstoppable development. I wish all of you very fruitful deliberations.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, at this moment, we will invite the Minister of Finance, Honorable Matia Gasaija, once again, to come and give us his speech. Again, we want to, as he comes, to pick the minds of each one of you. It's an engagement where we want, to make it as conversational as possible. Honorable Matia Gasaija.
I think since, in the interest of time, since I mentioned your protocols, you may allow me to go straight forward and make my statement. Agreed? Thank you. Our gathering here this evening is special and significant in Uganda's journey to building a competitive economy for national development. I thank the management of both NTV and my ministry for convening us here to collectively reflect and exchange experiences and expectations around the theme of this summit. That is, key policy triggers for economic growth with jobs. And I want to underline that word, with jobs. The media plays a critical role in national development. With the right combination of motivation, professionalism, and a passion, the media can contribute to accelerating the process of national development. Someone was saying that when the media does not, in media you are not an enemy to anybody. No. If anybody says you are an enemy, we know how to put enemies back to dying if you prove to become an enemy. We should be in a partnership, because a stable country, a stable economy is your field in which to grow. So I don't expect anybody to start stabbing himself or herself. So those who say you are enemies, I don't belong to that. But at the same time, we have to be a bit responsible, that's all. It is no wonder that some refer to the media as the fourth arm of government. It is particularly gratifying to note that this economic summit is the third in a series so far. I observe that there is continuity of a common thread across all the three summits. The theme of the first summit was jump-starting Uganda's economy, turning vision into action, if you remember, those of you who are around. And that of the second was triggering Uganda's economy through sustainable growth with jobs. Both highlighted the significance of economic management for results. This sustained focus in discussion speaks of our commitment as stakeholders to building a culture of inclusive and constructive engagement in the development of our economy. I want to thank you for the opportunity to be part of this emerging culture. Ladies and gentlemen, the theme of this summit is both timely and relevant. It is timely because my ministry is currently concluding stakeholder consultation on the budget for financial year 2019-20, and then financial year 2019-20 is the last budget for the budget year of the second National Development Plan. As part of the budget process for financial year 19-20, it is important that we correctly identify and implement the measures necessary to accelerate progress towards the government's overall medium-term goal of graduating Uganda to lower middle-income status. As far as the relevance of this summit theme is concerned, you will recall that 2 years ago, government adopted the theme industrialization for job creation and shared prosperity. You can see these things, we are talking about the same thing. For the national budget for 2017-18, the selection of this theme was informed by our four strategic considerations that have continued to guide the government's public investment agenda. 1, integrating the 69% of our households in subsistence agriculture into the money economy. 2, raising the rate of return on investment in Uganda. 3, building an integrated economy with strong forward and backward linkages and nurturing a competitive workforce for a modern and regionally integrated economy. In the interest of ensuring that we do a proper job in addressing these strategic considerations, we have maintained the same budget theme for 3 financial years in a row, from 2017-18 to 2019-20. The convergence of this summit theme and that of the national budget on jobs mean that we are on the same page. It also means that we share a common agenda. My expectation, therefore, is that tonight's discussion will bring about a meeting of minds in terms of the strategies, priorities, and the performance culture necessary for driving forward our common agenda for jobs. I told you that word jobs, I underline it. Maybe let me take this opportunity to say a little bit more. I don't know how many of you people travel up country. By those who want to go up country, but even here in Kampala, the youth. The other day I was in my constituency and they are playing a football cup there. In no time the whole football pitch was covered by youthful people. In thousands. Some of them I just cannot even know who they are and whose father they are. Getting a vote from them becomes even a challenge now. But more fundamentally, what do we do with those youth?
They are an asset, but they can become a big liability. That's why government today, we are working tirelessly to ensure, one, that we educate them. Two, we skill them. Because it's no good for somebody to go to Makerere and take a degree in social sciences. You call it SWASWA? SWASWA? Conflict management. You've heard the president talk about this. They need a skill that is demanded by the private sector. We need to make sure those people have got jobs, but they will get jobs if they have a skill demanded by the private sector, basically. Because government, we are a very small employer. We are about 300 something employees of government. But now, when I don't have my statistics here, I will give them to you when I do my budget speech. There are now more than 3-4 million younger Ugandans ready to enter the labor market. Indeed, my UBOS, the statistics department, tells me on average every year there are about 600 to 700,000 youth that are entering the labor market. That's why the question, he was quoting me, that money hates noise. Once money hears noise, it will run away. That's why we are tirelessly inviting investors, both Ugandan and non-Ugandans, to come in to create jobs so that these youth, they have something to occupy them. We say an idle mind is the devil's what? So if we do not work tirelessly, and really please, I'm inviting to all of you in this room, and those of you who are watching us on TV, let's do everything that is within our power to create as many jobs as we can. We in the government, we are doing very well on this, I can tell you that. That's why we are working out these industrial parks. That's why we are giving incentives of all types for investors to come and bring their money here, including Ugandans, to put money down by building factories, by putting up farms, putting up all sorts of businesses that will create jobs to absorb these youth. It's a big asset, but I told you, if you're not very careful, if you do not handle it, it is quite a delicate asset. Those youth will become a problem to us. And God forbid that should not happen. And therefore, I'm inviting all of you people, please, and now I'm going to institute a system, particularly for those foreign companies that come to seek, who come and invest with us. The first question I'm going to be asking, how many jobs? Before I talk about salaries, before I talk about taxes, because taxes will come. Once the business begins and you get those youth employed, then even taxes will begin to come. What will happen? You will pay them if you pay them a good salary, they will work harder. You as a businessman, you will be able to expand your businesses. You will expand your businesses. You will increase the size of the economy. You will increase the size of the economy. Then my tax base will improve. And when it improves, more money in the treasury. More money, better roads, better hospitals, better schools, better everything. And life goes on beautifully. I hope I've put my case very well. You have understood it very well. Employment, jobs. I have come a long way with this. We have come a long way with some of my. I have come along with some of my senior technical staff. They are here to make sure that we listen and effectively capture your input on the economy, especially your proposal on how to move the economy forward. Still, on relevance to the summit, we have commenced preliminary consultation on the third National Development Plan. My ministry will be working in the weeks and months ahead to ensure that clear and credible messages from our discussion tonight are advanced and concretized in the next steps of preparing the National Development Number 3. As we will note from my address later, recent improvements in economic performance indicators are consistent with the government's responsiveness to input from stakeholders. Ladies and gentlemen, there are two aspects of the theme of today's summit. One, economic growth and jobs. 2 months ago, Uganda Bureau of Statistics released the GDP outturn figures for financial year 17-18. The new numbers are heartening. They show that economic activity is on an upward swing. The economy expanded by 6.1% in financial year 17-18, clearly higher than the 5.8% estimate that I reported during my budget speech in June 2018. A breakdown of annual economic growth in financial year 17-18 shows improved performance across all sectors of the economy. Annual growth in the agriculture sector more than doubled from 1.6 in 2016-17 to 3.8% in 17-18. This was followed by industry from 3.4 to 6.1%, and the services from 5.4 to 7.7% over the same period. Important to note, in the agriculture sector is the strong annual growth of the food crop subsector, which expanded from 2.0% to 5.3% over the same period. This highlights the changing contribution of the food crop subsector to agricultural performance. Growth in the food crop subsector is attributed to a favorable weather pattern, public investment in agriculture, changes in consumption patterns driven by rapid urbanization, and the continued diversification of Uganda's export basket. Within the industrial sector, the mining and quarrying subsector led the expansion with an annual growth of 26%. The marginal annual growth of 1.7% in manufacturing sector is reflective of the slowdown in private sector credit growth to the sector, which was 0.3% annual growth, and low plant utilization capacity, 53% reported by manufacturers during the reference period. In other words, what we are saying is that there was a slowdown in private sector credit growth, and it only grew by 0.3%, and there was also low plant utilization capacity. We shall discuss later on if time allows me. In the service sector, the information and communication subsector continues to be the major driver of expansion with annual growth of 15%. The upward swing in economic activity seen in the second half of financial year 17-18 has continued throughout the first quarter of this year. All three of the highest frequency economic indicators used to monitor changes in business activity and sentiment show that investor confidence is strong and growing. We should clap ourselves. It's strong and growing. The composite index of economic activity, which measures the level of economic activity, has consistently registered a positive monthly change over the 6 months to September 2018. The increase in this CAA reached a record high of 0.9% in September alone this year, compared to 0.5% in April 2018. Business sentiment, as measured by the Business Tendency Index, also remains high. The BTI, that is the Business Tendency Index, increased to 56.73 in October 2018, well above the recommended threshold of 50. Don't worry about this jargon. My technical officers will explain if you want to know more about them. But it's just to indicate to you that things are moving upward. This is the highest level it has reached in the last 8 months. Similarly, the Purchasing Managers Index, which is an indicator of economic health for manufacturing and service sectors, increased to 56.6 in October this year, up from 54.2% in September 2018. This performance signals increasing demand in the economy as well as rising employment levels. Uganda's economic outlook for the remaining period of NDP2 is very positive. We forecast the economy to expand at 6.0% in this financial year and 6.2% in the year that is following, which we are budgeting for 1920. This will bring the average GDP growth rate over the NDP period to 5.4%, the same as that attained during the NDP1 period. This forecast is informed by both international and domestic developments. While global growth is expected to remain steady in 2018 and 19 at about 3.7% annual growth rate, its pace of growth is expected to slow down. The maturing of some of the key public investment projects in the energy and the transport sectors is expected to inject new life into private investment flows on account of lower transaction costs, which means even some of those are like a low cost of electricity. The supportive weather patterns this year, government's accelerated investment in its irrigation program, and the commencement of domestic production of fertilizers are also expected to sustain improved performance of the agricultural sector. From a long-term perspective, the recent upsurge in economic activity marks the positive turning point in the trend of economic growth, which has been on a decline since 2011-12. It highlights the strong possibility of the Ugandan economy returning to an average growth rate of 7% as witnessed during the era of the Poverty Eradication Action Plan, those of you who remember PEP. Between 2000/01 and 2010/11, real GDP growth averaged 7.3% compared to 4% between 2011/12 and 16/17. The return of the economic growth rate to the 6.0% range is a clear signal that government's decision to rebalance social and economic investments under the NDP era has taken root and begun to generate irreversible gains. This level of economic expansion also means that per capita incomes are rising in real terms. Uganda is on the course to attain a record real GDP per capita level of more than $800 by the end of this financial year, having reached a level of almost 799 for the financial year. Ladies and gentlemen, this brings me to the second aspect of our summit theme, jobs. Before I remind you of the strategies we are implementing to ensure that impressive macroeconomic performance I have talked about is something that Ugandans can touch and taste, let us look at the latest numbers on jobs and incomes. We know from the 2017 Uganda National Household Survey that Uganda has a working population of 15 million people. 9 million of these are employed, while the other 6 million are into subsistence agriculture. The good news is that between 2013 and 2017, the unemployment rate declined from 11.2% to 9.0%. We now also know from the results of the 2017 Manpower Survey that the number of Ugandans in formal employment has been significantly growing. The number of Ugandan employees in the formal sector increased from 698,900 in 2010 to 1,011,600 in 2015. This represents an average annual growth rate of 6% compared to an average annual economic growth rate of 5.4% over the same period. The take-home message from these numbers is loud and clear. Uganda's economic growth during the NDP1 period was job-rich as far as the formal sector is concerned. The evidence of this job-rich economic growth in the formal sector is not limited to
UBOS, that is my department for statistics. Active pay as you earn accounts at least revenue authority. Active pay as you earn accounts at revenue authority are now known to have reached 1 million. We also know that out of 2,264,000 registered employers with the National Social Security Fund, more than 800,000 were active members by 2017. These numbers are sure to keep improving on account of the high GDP growth forecast for the financial year 2018-19, 19-20. One unfortunate aspect about the performance of employment in the recent years is the decline in the contribution of people working for pay or profit paid employment to total employment. The share of the working population in paid employment contracted from 47% to 38% between 2013 and 2017. This means that enterprises are not hiring fast enough to keep pace with the growth of the labor force. We have also seen a reversal in the trend of poverty reduction, with the share of population below the poverty line rising from 19.7 to 21.4% over the same period. It is, however, important to note that the surveys that generated these results were conducted at a time when the country was faced with a severe drought. As such, they reflect more of a shock to livelihoods and less of a trend. It is at this point that I find it fitting to remind you of the strategies government is implementing to drive household incomes up and to accelerate job growth in both the formal and informal sectors of our economy. Agriculture, agribusiness, and agro-industry remain pivotal to Uganda's jobs agenda. One of the reasons why this is the case is because the average years of schooling of our population remains low, about 6 years. Mass training and skilling of this type of population to be able to compete for formal job opportunities in the secondary and tertiary sectors of the economy can only happen in the long term. In the short term to medium term.
Ntv akawungezi wetujide ku mpewo nga Ntv Economic Summit oba luyite olukungana lw'ebyenfuna olutegekebwa Ntv buli mwaka lutandise wano ku Serena. Luno olukungana lwa mulundi gwa kusatu era ng'omulamwa gw'omulundi guno gwetooloolera ku nkulaakulana ereetawo